Anora is out in theaters, new film from Sean Baker, starring Mikey Madison. This has been getting a lot of attention and critical praise, and I was very excited to see it. I loved Baker's previous movies. I've seen Tangerine, Florida Project, and Red Rocket. Loved and thoroughly enjoyed all of them. In particular, I enjoyed Baker's ability to film stories about the barely working class Americans living almost but not quite on the margins of society. People, barely scraping by, but scraping by. People who are fuck ups, but in a deeply human and relatable way. This one is no exception in that regard, as the film follows the titular Anora, a sex worker from New York City who, at the beginning of the film, meets an incredibly wealthy client, a young man, a boy almost, who's the son of a Russian oligarch. He seems to have absolutely unlimited money and quickly offers Anora exclusivity for a week. For a week, she is to be his girlfriend, very much like Pretty Woman. But then they seemingly fall in love, they get married in Las Vegas, Anora quits her strip club job and looks hopefully into the new bright future. And at that moment, henchmen hired by the Russian's family arrive to fix the situation. So the first thing I want to mention about the film is how surprising and twisty it manages to be, not necessarily in terms of the plot, but in terms of its tone and genre. Essentially, each of the three acts of the film feels like a different type of movie, yet they all weirdly come together to create a coherent whole. The first act plays out like a fantasy romance. We see the blossoming relationship of Anora and Vanya. Things look like a Cinderella story. It's kind of hopeful and optimistic, but with still the undertones of the gritty and almost shocking at times background of the sex worker profession. Then the moment the henchmen turn up, it turns into a full-on comedy. And I mean, the movie is hilarious. The funniest thing I've seen all year in movie theaters. I was consistently in stitches thanks to the writing, the physical comedy, and the performances. Plus, this is a very specific type of comedy that can be described as a one long crazy night out on town. It weirdly reminded me of movies like Good Time or Uncut Gems from the Safdie brothers, with the chaotic way things progress and new characters constantly enter the picture and shout at one another. It is nuts, although, admittedly, much more humorous and less anxious than in the Safdie brothers productions. And then the third and final act feels much like waking up after such a night and sobering up to the real world. It's a straight up drama, heartbreaking and raw. But as I said, as much as the transitions between the tones are jarring, and I think deliberately so, they work, and the movie as a whole also works. It's fantastically acted. I mean, much has already been said about Mikey Madison's performance, but all of the supporting players are really great. There are a bunch of mostly unknown actors who perfectly fit and inhabit their characters with all the little tics and mannerisms and voices and things they do, and the dynamics between all of them as well. It feels just like Baker's other movies, almost like observing real life America, like it's a guerrilla documentary and not a feature film. It looks great. I especially loved the cinematography, foreshadowing of the role that Igor ends up playing in the story, as well as some shots which perfectly encapsulate where Anora is emotionally and mentally within the story at any point in time. And I like the ending, which I thought was also surprising but fitting, and I think less obvious than I would have expected. So all in all, really loved this film. Another great one from Sean Baker. Definitely an awards contender and certainly worth checking out.